We'd been better mind readers, I guess we could have, but we moved as quickly as the problem became apparent to us. And we have to move with caution as well as speed.
The baby formula shortage is, of course, a very real and frightening crisis for new moms and families across America today. And despite the president's mind-reading comment coming off a bit insensitive, it's also inaccurate. Even before a formula recall in February, baby formula had been in scarce supply. The Wall Street Journal reported it. So did the administration act with urgency? No. Those are the facts. And now we have the New York Times, instead of reporting those facts, claiming that, yes, the GOP is weaponizing the issue. A recent article by reporter Annie Carney is titled "Under Pressure to Act. White House Says It'll Address Formula Shortage." She writes, Republicans sharpening their attacks on Mr. Biden and Democrats before midterm congressional elections sought to weaponize the baby formula shortage. And she adds that hard-right Republicans transformed it into a forum for airing some of their favorite attacks against Mr. Biden, trying to tie the formula shortage to his border policies. So staying with the facts here, yes, formula was shipped to the border. And so, yes, border policies are tied into this. And the Wall Street Journal on January the 12th reported that retailers and formula makers agree that out of stock is a problem. They didn't agree on how severe it was and who was to blame. But even in January, chains like Walmart and CVS were saying that manufacturers were having supply issues. Formula makers were blaming the retailers, saying they weren't getting the product to stores once it was delivered. So it was out there. You did not have to be a mind reader. 1 month later, the Abbott lab recall, of course, would make things much worse for the formula supply. But now here we are in May, John, and Jen Psaki stated just a few days ago parents with any issues should, well, call their doctors.
It's easy to think things would be different if there were a different person in charge of the White House, but let's bring back our panel to discuss this and the baby formula crisis. We have the managing editor from Red State, Kira Davis, back with us. Also, we have Ari Hoffman from 570 Radio in Seattle, and Dan O'Donnell, host of the Dan O'Donnell Show in Milwaukee. Great to have everyone back with us. So let's talk more about this and the claim that Republicans, Kira, have pounced on this issue. Of course. I mean, the trail leads directly back to Joe Biden's feet for not doing more to kind of facilitate emergency production of baby formula.
You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now, John. This is how we got Trump. Right. There was a whole bunch of people who had a lot of concerns prior to 2016 who felt like they weren't heard. And every time they spoke up to say, hey, I'm hurting, my family's hurting, this is going on in our lives, that's going on in our lives. They were accused of being white supremacists, of being xenophobic, of being hateful, bigots. And those people rose up in 2016 and took their concerns to the ballot box. And that's how we got the, quote, big surprise that was Donald Trump. And here they are back at it again. They're not hearing us. People are scared. People are concerned. And not everything is a left-right issue. And yet the Democrats are going to make it that. And guess what? They're going to face some real surprises at the ballot box in 2024 if they keep this up.
It's very easy to imagine, Ari, that back in, say, January or February when we first started hearing of these problems, that President Trump would have invoked something like the military or the Production Act to just get the wheels moving on this type of stuff to avoid the situation, the exact situation we're in right now.
I remember a whole bunch of Democrats demonizing him for doing that to get ventilators made. And they were criticizing him for that big press conference he had on the White House lawn, talking about how Walgreens and Costco and every pharmaceutical company was going to be involved with Operation Warp Speed and getting the personal protection equipment. And they demonized him for that. Meanwhile, Joe Biden knew about this months ago. His own departments are the ones that shut down these massive factories that were making this stuff with no plan whatsoever to make up the difference. Then you talk about what's happening at the border. They're shipping all the stuff down there. They have millions of illegal immigrants coming across the border. So while they may have always shipped this stuff down, now they need even more of it. Now we're competing with the federal government for this kind of stuff. And now they're trying to say, oh, we're sharpening our knives. Hey, guys, what are you doing with abortion right now?
Yeah, good point there. Let's turn to the issue of gender studies. Dan, a report out says 3 middle schoolers have been charged with sexual harassment for not using they, them pronouns. It claims the children violated Title IX by way of gender-based harassment. The youngsters had a name called on the basis of sex. We're talking about middle schoolers here. Getting
and not
charged
only
with
that,
this.
John, this actually happened up the road from me in a town called Kiel, Wisconsin. This isn't exactly Ann Arbor, Michigan, or San Francisco, California. when you think about small town America, you think of a town like Kiel, Wisconsin. The idea that this sort of wokeism is happening there should be an extreme wake-up call that it's in all of its insidious forms everywhere, literally everywhere. You might remember a couple of months ago, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, another small town Americana with an extreme woke agenda in the classroom. We had all sorts of this stuff going on all across Wisconsin, not just in Ari's Seattle. This is the new normal, sadly, for big and small, large city and small town school districts all across this country.
It's hard to think about Ari's Seattle. I think of a much more conservative place than what you see on TV, maybe a throwback to You Got Mail. That's that Seattle from the late 90s before it was spoiled by all this woke politics. Now, Ari, let's talk about Arizona a little bit. And we call these worst case scenarios because, you know, somebody's like, what are you worried about if you don't support this type of stuff? This is the type of stuff we're worried about. An Arizona high school counselor who helped organize a drag show for her students was arrested and is now accused of having sex with a 15-year-old girl. This comes to us from KVOA in Tucson, reporting that the 15-year-old had been living in the counselor's home and sleeping in the same bed. These are the people counseling our kids.
When you make everything about sexual activity, and when you say these are the people that can be trusted to discuss this with our kids, why is anybody surprised that these are the people they turn to when they're hormonal teenagers, when they're trying to figure out what's going on with their bodies, when their parts of their bodies are telling their brain something else and they're not processing it appropriately, and they've been told by people in authority that these are the people you can trust? Why is anybody surprised? We see these stories time and time and time again, and that's why so many parents, so many kids even, so many teenagers are pushing back on these groomers that are inside our schools right now.
Yeah, I mean, Kira, I want to send this one over to you. You know, this is the same situation, or not the same, but it's similar to when people were talking about having same-sex bathrooms in Loudoun County, Virginia, and you say, that doesn't sound like a good idea. And people say, what are you worried is going to happen? Like, somebody's going to get raped inside one of these bathrooms? And then it happens.
This is why I'm running for school board. I'm running for school board in my little district here in the cozy suburbs of Southern California, a conservative suburb. I'm doing it because this stuff is being implemented in our schools right under our noses. And for a long time, we have thought that we could trust the people that we sent to our school boards. And we are seeing now that they're the last line of defense, and that defense has been broken. So there are a lot of parents across the country like me who are stepping up and going, I might not be able to run for president or governor, but I can sure as hell be on my school board and make sure that these things stop right where I stand, because no one is coming to our rescue. This is clear. The inmates are running the asylum now, so it's time for parents and people who are pro-parent to step up, step forward, put our money and our time where our mouth is. That's what I'm doing, and that's what tens of thousands of parents are doing across the country. So while this is distressing, I do see a response that is really encouraging.
Well, Kira, God bless you for that. And Ari and Dan, great to see you guys as well.